all these bullet points, right, I would have made sure that the department avails budget for which they are going to be servicing these ad hoc services. I would have made sure that there is a period for which those services, right, are gonna be running. But because this instruction was not complied with, right, it wouldn't be fair of me to say I knew, I did not know. I only became aware when there were these complaints. Whilst on this instruction, I want to say to the Commission, this instruction does not delegate me with any power, duty, or responsibility to deal with any department within the city of Tshwane that which is found to be acting contrary to what this instruction is saying. This explanation goes back to the issue of the instruction that was given to me by River Space, cancel all ad hoc services. Since this directive does not delegate me with powers, duties, and responsibility to intervene and address the issue of non-compliance by departments, there is no way I would have cancelled something that was not ordered and or instructed by me. In actual fact, what I'm trying to say to the Commission is that when ad hoc services are requested, it is very critical. For how long is the department requesting this? Let's say they say 6 months, right? At what cost we would be having a quotation, which quotation would have been approved by the department because the department is responsible to pay for those ad hoc services. From my office, part of the responsibility, when everything has been done subject to this directive, from my office is to monitor the rendering of services, the period, the budget, and all of that. And things normally do not fall out of hands because it reaches a point where we are able to say, department, you said you're requesting these services for 3 months. This is the last month, right?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did I hear part of this response to say that you could not cancel because the deployments were not done properly? Or did I mishear you? That is cancel in accordance with Deputy Chief Species instruction. You say you could not cancel because the deployments were improper. Did I hear you say that?
Yes, Commissioner, you're saying it, maybe if I'm allowed to proceed, because I've already...
I just want to hear, just on this one statement, did you say that or not?
I said it, Commissioner.
You said it?
Yes.
Would the impropriety not actually be the very reason on which you would cancel? something went wrong here. This was an improper deployment, so let's kill it now, let's cancel. Would that not be the logical thing to do, or not?
It would be logical if we were responsible, right, for the deployment of this. Otherwise, I mean, actually, in fact, instead of Commissioner Spies instructing me to cancel this, he should have gone through this and direct.
Maybe let me ask the question differently. Had everything been done properly, would it have been within your remit to cancel?
If everything
had been done properly, but now there was a need to cancel, would it have been within your remit to cancel? Would it?
If everything was done,
would you have had the power to cancel? If the need to cancel arose, I would have advised the department responsible, right, to cancel, because if everything was done properly, right, it wouldn't have reached a point where there is actually an issue whether they must be cancelled or not. But in this instance, right, let me now, according to you, everything had been done improperly. Why not advise the department concerned to cancel exactly because everything had been done improperly? If you could advise when everything had been done properly, why not also advise if something had been done improperly? I want to understand your reasoning.
Okay. By the way, I made a mention of the fact that at the point when Ms. Ribos-Peace was giving me this instruction, right, this matter was receiving attention at a higher level. And the level at which Mr. Spies was sitting, right? So I looked at, my apologies, I looked at his approach and I realized, I convinced myself, I'm still convinced, he wanted to throw me under the bus. I'm saying this because—
By saying cancel,
because—
Why would you get under the bus if someone says—
No, he wanted—
Just a minute. If according to you,
yes,
there was something wrong, why would it take you under the bus if you simply cancelled? Aren't you actually assisting your employer, the city, if you cancel something that was done improperly?
In the context of his instruction, he said, cancel all ad hoc services, right? Hence, in my earlier submission before the commission, right, before even going into the system and confirming and all of that, I said, right, it wouldn't have been possible to cancel all of them because not all of them were having the same problem.
Did you cancel any? Did you cancel any then?
At that point in time, no, I did not.
Weren't some, even according to what you've just said, weren't some done improperly?
Commissioner, let me say this.
And just answer the question directly. Were some not done improperly according to you?
I'm not aware of some that were not done properly.
You've just said not all of them had been done improperly.
Yes.
Implicit in that is that some had been done improperly. That's how I understand what you are saying.
No, maybe
now, if you say that, the implication being that there was nothing the matter with some. So my question is, why not cancel those that you had no problem with, or those that you are not saying there was any impropriety with regard to them? Why not cancel those?
The instruction, Commissioner, was cancel all. And I knew it was not all of them, it was Kubis. And this Kubis, I could not have it cancelled because it was not instructed by me to deploy. In actual fact, let me put the record straight. Commissioner, this instruction was
It was exactly because of this reference to who the instruction came from that right at the beginning I asked you, would it have been within your power to cancel? Would it have been within your remit to cancel?
Yes. Hence I wanted...
So now, and I asked that exactly because you keep saying you are not the one who gave the instruction. You may not have given the instruction, but if you have the power to cancel, you could and should have cancelled, regardless of whether or not you gave the instruction. So the antecedent question is the question I asked earlier, which is, did you have the power to cancel?
I said...
Did you or did you not?
No, in this respect, I did not have the power to cancel.
You did not have the power to cancel?
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, Mr. Skakane, I think we've been derailed because I think what the focus of the testimony at this stage, if I'm not mistaken, is about the inception, yes, the start of all this, and not the tail end, which is the cancellation. Am I mistaken?
Chair,
I may be mistaken. Okay. But I thought we at this stage the focus. I'm not saying it was not to get here yes, at some point, yes, but I thought at this stage it's about the inception or the beginning
of the. Yes, I suppose what we went through was the we got caught up in the issue of the discussion around the quantum and what was supposed to happen. But I'll let Mr. Director Malati to continue. Safe to just pick on one issue, maybe one question, and then I'll let him continue. Director Malati, as I understand it, we have to deal with the evidence as we see it. And it does not appear at any point in the evidence, and the one that you've supplemented with, that you either responded directly to Commissioner Spies or anyone about the termination of ad hoc service. Would I be correct, or there is?
He said he responded, but when I asked when I asked the director to take us to the documents showing his response, he said he does not have them here.
Yes. So, however, they do exist.
Come again.
I'm saying they do exist. You did.
Yes. To the first email, right? Fund transfer, please provide address where have been developed. My memory serves me well. It is not part of this bundle, all right? We did respond to this one. Okay. In terms of where ad hocs are deployed and whatever the case may be.
Okay, right? That's fine. Please proceed with your statement. I'll ask my question later on. You had paragraph 5 of your statement. You were taking us through those annexes.
My statement, you said it's page 34. Oh, okay. All right. Yes, we were on paragraph 4. I think we've deliberated much on emails and communications detailing executive discussions. Number 2, email response to Nandule regarding his complaint that 13 requisitions were created without invoices. In this case, I made a follow-up with my team, and they responded to Director Nandule about these 13 requisitions, and they went as far as saying to me, in their view, they couldn't create these requisitions without attaching emails. As I wanted to know how this process works, they said they do not have a function that they use, that is used, right, to create purchase requisitions without emails. I mean, without invoices. But it is Director Nandule staff who have got that function on the subsystem. And they went further to say, when they inquired, later when they made a follow-up with Director Nandule's office, it came to light that those requisitions were eventually cancelled, right, on the system. But since I'm not familiar with the subsystem and not, you know, I relied much on what they are telling me, and I think they even said it is possible for the Commission to verify that, maybe by going back to Director Nandulis and find out exactly the status quo as it stands right now. But further than that, I personally found it very difficult to talk to this, but the long and short of it is that my department responded to Director Nandule with an email in which they were talking to their language. I'm not conversant with their administrative language in that space, and these things are, of course, functions that are, as we speak currently, performed within the environment of Director Nandule. So I'm not hands-on when it comes to that, but from my office, right, I must put it on record before the Commission that invoices are submitted for further handling, of which further handling would include creation of purchase requisitions and POs going forward. But let me stop at that. I think I've explained based on information.
Director Malachi, we know even from the 2024 invoices that at some point on the 26th of February 2025, those invoices came to you and you stamped and signed them. And that was around the time when there was a dispute about non-payment of Gubis's 2024 invoices. So we do know from the evidence before us that at least on the 26th of February 2025, those disputed invoices came to you and you signed them.
Commissioner, if they came to me and I signed them, right? I don't think I signed them to close the query, right? By then, I'm not sure if that query was already in place. By the way, the commissioner must please understand that part of my responsibility, right, is to make sure that as and when invoices are submitted, right, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I process them further to be handled at a later stage. So if those specific invoices, right, were brought to my office, right, and I've signed them, right, I want it to be on record, right. I did not sign them because I was closing any query, right. I was not aware, right, that there was these invoices that the Director Nandile has got an issue with.
Are you saying you just signed without verifying whether these services were properly procured with this explanation?
No, I'm not saying that, Commissioner. Every invoice that gets submitted to my office, right, we verify. And part of verification includes we want to make sure that sites allocated, sites for which the invoice is talking to, right, are sites that are allocated to the company, right? It's the risk mitigation process, because if I was just to sign, any service provider would take advantage that he has got a contract with the city and he can put even sites that are not part of his or her allocation for me to sign. So we verify before we submit.
I will ask the evidence leaders to put it up while you continue with your testimony. We may come back to it. It's on page 144 of file 3 of that Umashi Dlamini. Remember that Gubis invoice that was shared between Dlamini and Nkosi, and it has Director Malachi's signature and a stamp on the 26th of February 2025. So if it is available nearby, they can put it up on the screen. But for now, if Commissioner Balwa is finished with her question, then you can continue with what you were dealing with.
Let me just finish off my question. If you say you verify before you sign off, would you not then have picked up, or should you not have picked up that the services were, or the deployment was done by somebody who, in your previous evidence, you said didn't have authority? We know that Piri signed deployment letters, and your testimony previously was you never, firstly you said he's junior, he doesn't have the authority to do that, and you never gave him that authority. Your verification of invoices before you approve, would you not have picked that up?
I should mention that maybe when we talk signing of invoices, let us not confuse invoices for the main contract with invoices for ad hoc services, right? Let us not. So if there are invoices for the main contract, right, verification is very easy. By the way, here we're talking about invoices in respect of sites, which sites were allocated to Kubis 85
My question is about ad hoc services.
Okay.
That's
No,
a
it's fine.
discussion we had with Mr. Piri, where he signed all those deployment letters authorizing Gubis and I think Mohaladi or somebody and Triotic. But I'm happy to limit it to Gubis because that's the company that became the subject of much discussion. So we know that Piri signed those deployment letters. Now, if you are responsible for signing off on invoices that come in, and you can say that you didn't sign them if you did not, but if you did sign invoices relating to those ad hoc services, my question is, would you not have picked up that, in fact, the person who authorized these services did not have the authority to do that?
Normally, Commissioner, this is how it works. In many instances, all ad hoc services which have been handled properly, as I explained earlier on, right? Normally, those invoices would not even end up with me having to sign. The mere fact that everything would have been done according to the book, right? At the end of the day, the service provider concerned would submit such invoices to the department concerned, not me, right? But the catch with Kubis, Mogalagadi, and Triotic, Kubis was instructed by the Department of Water and Sanitation. Mogalagadi and Triotic Services were instructed by the Office of the Chief of Police, in bracket, Mr. Police, right? That is why such invoices, right, Mogalagadi and Triotic, such invoices were supposed to be signed by me because by virtue of the executive having instructed the deployment thereof, right? I had no, but those invoices had to be paid from my vote, the watchman services, right? Now, with the Gubis ones, right, since the matter, the matter was receiving attention from the executive, right? There was a point where a decision, if I understand the situation very well, or remember the situation very well, there was a point where the reason for them to be discussed at that level, right, was to make sure that at the end of the day, instead of having them serviced from the Department of Water and Sanitation, right, the executive would take a decision, right, get that money transferred into watchman vote account, and for those services to be paid. So, with me having signed them, after the executive has decided and got the money, right, I don't think there was anything wrong with that. Because already the executive has taken a decision. Already the executive, the chief of police, has requested for the 91 million, right? The CFO supported and the city manager approved. So the money got into my vote in order to the process. In order to the process, yes.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Director Malachi, I think what Commissioner Male was getting at is what your answer was at your previous appearance, and your answer was to accept or concede that some of the invoices you signed without verifying that the services were rendered. That was your answer when you appeared and you accepted that possibility, and the fact that as a result, payments would have been made on the basis of your signature. You recall that?
Yes, let me remind the Commission of what I have said. The question had something to do with, is there a possibility that some invoices could be signed without verification being done insofar as performance and what have you of services concerned? I said that is a possibility. The reason being, we have more than 500 sites, right, for which my monitoring team of less than 10 people, right, is deployed. Chances of them not covering the scope, right, might result with, come the end of the month, right, they were unable to come at site number 457, right? But it's month end, and we invoices are submitted. So that possibility is there.
So in short, you accept the correctness of what Mrs. Kakane is saying?
Yes, no. I
All
agree,
right.
it's fine.
That should be enough.
Yes,
Mrs.
that's
Kakane.
enough. That's enough. Chair, and I think it addressed my concern was obviously you were saying that the discussions were happening at a higher level than you were involved, but I wanted to just highlight that your level is director and you had that responsibility to ensure that services that are rendered are actually rendered. As a director, that's one of your jobs or your level of accountability.
I agree. Let me say this, Commissioner. My level as a director, all right, dictates, right, whatever you are saying about, but let the Commission not lose sight of the fact that, I've spoken at length about staffing problems. I've spoken at length, about many other shortcomings. Now, I think it is obvious that if I was treated accordingly, right, I should have participated. Somebody should have invited me to participate, right, in these executive meetings. But let me not proceed with this. But I was never invited to participate. And at the end, whatever the executive decides upon, I accept. Hence,
Mrs. Kakan, perhaps let's just do the statement all the way to the end and do the probing afterwards. Yeah, it's a very short one, only 4 pages, and yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
okay.
The question after paragraph 6.
Okay. Question under paragraph 6, written response to Commissioner's piece, email letter to 12, who approved the ad hoc services? I did not immediately respond to email from Commissioner's piece. The reasons for my failure to respond immediately stated in paragraph 8 below, which are covered under response detailing your failure to immediately carry out instruction to cancel all ad hoc cuts, and the background explaining explanation provided to Commissioner Bolehey's detailing the initiation of ad hoc deployments. Regarding my failure not to cancel all ad hoc services, I did not carry out the instruction of Commissioner Spies immediately because of the following. The instruction was wide as it included cancellation of ad hoc services which were not affected. That's reason number one. Number two, the instruction was not directed to the initiator of the ad hoc services in question. The instruction was issued without observing the content of the standing operating procedure, acquisition of additional new services dated the 23rd of January 2023. I've attached the SOP marked Annex TS5. Commissioner Spies was aware of the SOP, yet he instructed termination of ad hoc services in respect of Kubi's Triotic Protection Services and Mahalahari Security. I later complied with this instruction by drafting letters of termination for his signature. He signed these letters. I personally called the company, served them with termination letters, and I have attached one of these termination letters marked A6. Now, there is something I want to add on to this paragraph. What I want to add on to this is another reason. On the 12th of March 2025, when Commissioner Spies gave me this instruction, I want this commission to note that Commissioner Spies, I wanted this commission to note that Commissioner Spies did not have legal authority to do so. I'm saying he did not have legal authority to do so because in terms of TMPD organizational structure in place, Commissioner Spies' position was not part of the structure. And with him not being part of the structure, there is no way in terms of the law that Commissioner Spies would give Director Malachi instructions, right? Yet he is well aware that he is not part of the structure. It's like anyone who says, I was supposed to carry out instructions from Commissioner Spies would then agree with me to say, when I walk out of this commission, I can meet someone, right, out there, and he said, I'm the deputy chief and I'm giving you instruction, go and do 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm saying in terms of the law, Commissioner Spies was not having any legal authority to do so, because legal authority in the city gets derived from approved organizational structure by council, not by individual senior managers within the city of Tshwane. By council. Approval by council gives effect to appointments and anything to do with the rendering of services within this. So he realized this. That is why when I say I later cancelled the 3, right? It was after June. There is a reason, Commissioner, why after June, he came back to me to say, cancel Mogalagadi, try to give it, because it was only after the 4th of June that Commissioner Spies was accommodated, right, on the structure of the TMPD. And that accommodation still was not via any resolution of council. That accommodation was not via any resolution by council, which then means, in my with my knowledge, right, after the approval, the said approval, even though it was not done via a resolution of council, right, that position should have been should have been advertised in state.
Let me interrupt you, because now you're talking about adverts. I just want to clarify that I understand what you're saying. At 12 March 2025, who did you report to?
In view of Spies, it was said, actually, he imposed himself on me, because nobody, not even the chief of police.
Okay, my answer doesn't need an explanation,
Okay.
honestly, Director. I've asked you a simple question. Who, at the 12th of March 2025, who did you report to?
I was supposed to report to the chief of police.
Who did you report to at the 12th of March 2025? I'm not asking you who were you supposed to.
There was no...
We know there was ball haze at some point, so you were never reporting to the chief of police, because on the evidence, on the testimony that we have had, Paul Hayes, I think Deputy Commissioner, I think that's his position, Paul Hayes was overseeing APSS. And then at some point, he stopped, and Spies, Deputy Commissioner Spies becomes responsible for that. So keep that in mind when you answer my question.
Okay.
On the 12th of March 2025, who were you reporting to?
In terms of his presence, right? I reported to him, but
Him being Spies?
I reported to Spies,
Yes.
right, by virtue of him being there.
I've said to you, I don't want you to give an explanation about structures and the politics and who did what, did not do what. I'm asking the simple question: who was your immediate superior that you reported to at the time? And you've answered. You've said you reported to Spies.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Okay. I'm at point 11. I fully explained to Commissioner Paul Hayes the process on how ad hoc deployments work, as it is contained in the city manager's SOP dated the 23rd. That's what I did. I further explained to Commissioner Paul Hayes that Gubi Solutions ad hoc services were initiated by the Department of Water and Sanitation without complying and or observing the SOP mentioned above. Can I proceed? After 12, formal suspension letter, the preceding notice inviting your presentations on the suspension, written response to, I have attached the requested documents marked as annexures T7, ST7, 8, and ST9 respectively. ST7, Commissioner, it's a letter addressed to me Notice of suspension pending allegation of misconduct, TP Malachi, in bracket, it's my pay number. Can I proceed? With reference to the notice of intention to suspend you, dated the 26th of June 2025, following allegations of misconduct, in that you failed to declare all directorships and financial interests to the municipality in terms of the Municipal Systems Act, Schedule 2 Code of Conduct for municipal staff members, the subsequent submission of representation by yourself, taking the seriousness
Director
of...
Malachi, I think you can skip that, it's fine.
Oh, we can skip
Yes,
that.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
ST8, notice of intention to suspend.
I think we can skip that as well, because
Okay.
you dealt at length with your suspension when you gave your testimony earlier.
Thank you. ST9, this was my representation to Commissioner Farrow. Representations against intended suspensions.
I think we can skip that too.
We can skip this one.
Yes.
Right. Let me go to just after point number 13, the correct advertisement for the position of Deputy Chief of Police, Asset Protection and Security Services. It is attached there as per ST10.
Is there any salient point we want to deal with here?
I think not much except to say, if the commissioner goes through this correspondence, the commissioner would realize that both Mr. Species and myself are actually charged with one and the same responsibility.
We will decide that because, if I'm not mistaken, I think Commissioner Baloyi, when you testified earlier, took you through what his responsibilities are and what yours are. And Commissioner Baloyi was seeking to demonstrate that these are not necessarily the same. Yeah, Commissioner Baloyi confirms my recollection.
My recollection also, Director, is that you had attached the wrong, I think that's what you said, you had attached the wrong advert, and we were talking off that advert.
Okay.
And that's why you've given us page 44.
Exactly.
It's the correct one.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Now, hence, Commissioner, I'm saying, having attached a wrong one, today my testimony is putting it on record.
So basically you are now saying, or rather you are insisting that now that I have the correct advert, I am insisting that the duties are the same. So
Correct, Commissioner, yes.
That's your point. Maybe Commissioner Baloyi will again take you through similar points as she did previously. I'm not pushing her to. Is there anything else?
Not at this time.
Is there anything else you...
No, not on this one. I'm just happy
Yes,
that I've
okay.
brought to the attention of the Commission what I wanted to bring respect of the two of us sharing one and the same responsibilities. Thank
Okay.
you, Commissioner.
And then there's the last point, which at page 4.
Okay. Documents addressing funding request for 2025 period. Commissioner, I've attached here documents marked annexed T11 and 12.
Any salient points or issues you wish to raise with regard to these?
No, from where I am sitting, Commissioner, what I want to put on record is that the documents that I've attached here are evident enough to assist the Commission in determining who has requested funds and for what. And very specific, I want to say, I want to make this point that these documents, they are evidence, all right, which indicate explicitly, all right, who requested the 91 million rand, right, in order to pay the invoices that have been and are continuing to be a subject of my testimony before the Commission. Thank you.
In respect of ad hoc deployments.
Exactly, Commissioner, thanks.
Before we break for lunch, is that document ready to be displayed? Can you please display it so that maybe Director Malachi can respond to Commissioner Baloy's question? Director Malachi, look to your left there.
Oh, okay.
Do you see that it's a Gubis invoice from June 2024 and it relates to ad hoc services?
Correct, I see.
And then on the 26th of February 2025, you stamped and signed it.
Yes,
You see that?
I see.
Yes, so the reason I wanted to refer you to this document is I don't agree with you that you were not aware that there were ad hoc services that were being rendered because you were approving invoices. And this do not even relate to the additional deployments in January and February. This is deployment that happened in 2024, and in relation to which, if you remember, there was the dispute because there were no purchase orders, and it was not clear who had authorized these deployments. But when it came to you, you stamped it and you signed it.
Are you ready to respond, or do you want to respond after lunch?
I think I can respond now.
Please do then.
This invoice was signed 26 February 2025. I think even though it was dating back to 2024, right? There is evidence in my testimony. I made mention of the fact that invoices were in January, February, ad hoc invoices involving Gubis were already receiving attention, right? From different levels, but the directive obviously would be that they were receiving attention at the executive level, right? Hence, when this invoice was sent to me, right, I took it that since the discussion is about how such invoices would be disposed of, right? There was no wrongdoing on my part in signing this invoice.
But did you know for certain that those services had been rendered? When you were signing and approving this invoice, did you know that Gubis had rendered those services?
In
Director Malach, did you know or did you not know?
let me say I did not know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let us adjourn and resume at 2 p.m.
Ramaphosa says almost all the country's municipalities are affected by the water crisis. Ramaphosa outlined this at a meeting with leaders at the Presidential Coordinating Council in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg today. The president announced the establishment of the National Water Crisis Committee earlier this year in response to the ongoing water challenge. He highlighted key factors that will help tackle the country's water crisis.
One of the most immediate challenges that affects almost every municipality is the crisis in the provision of water and sanitation, as Minister Tlhabisa said. That is why we have dedicated a significant portion of the agenda of this meeting to address this challenge. And we'll be addressing it from a diagnostic point of view and a solutions point of view, as well as how best that all should be financed.
Oil prices have again risen sharply, with Brent crude at one point reaching $126 a barrel, its highest figure in 4 years. This follows reports that the U.S. military is set to brief President Donald Trump on new plans for a wave of short and powerful strikes on Iran. There are also fears about the length of U.S. and Iranian blockades in the Gulf. The BBC's Theo Leggett reports.
Crude oil and its derivatives are used in a whole range of industries. They're also obviously used in transport and in agriculture as well, food production. So if you have food that costs more to grow because the fertilizer costs more, it costs more to run your farm machinery because the diesel to run that costs more, and then to distribute that produce to supermarkets or whatever, that costs more. And even if you drive from your home to go and buy them, that costs more as well. So ultimately that feeds through into inflation.
Recapping the top story, the Special Investigating Unit has uncovered a trail of corruption and widespread procurement fraud across several Northwest municipalities during a briefing to Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts. I'm Mondela Mana for SFM News Headlines at 1:30.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Top Billing is back with a bold new chapter and fresh new faces leading the way. Get ready to experience the world of luxury, travel, design and inspiring stories with our dynamic new presenters. From Zozibini Tunzi to Brioni Govender, Arno Krief and Sinemi Vuyo Mbulu, bringing their unique style, energy and perspective to every moment. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3 Thursdays, the 30th of April at 7 p.m. with repeats on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1. Top Billing is back and you don't want to miss it.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105 FM in Pietermaritzburg.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
All right, and that is how we begin the show today on that beautiful, warm, and wholesome note. Benjamin Jafta featuring Kujenga on this one with Be Strong. And today is, of course, International Jazz Day. And they represent the current crop of young jazz musicians that are claiming their own space and their own narrative in this genre that is really the bedrock of all music. It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, here on SAFM as we kick off this fine Thursday. My mind is already saying it's Friday, and that's probably because I've skipped every one of the long weekends in this quarter. But I am making up for it tomorrow. So I'm already at Shaisa time as we begin the show, and we have a very full and engaged show for you today. We're going to be reflecting on the Madlanga Commission with Usbatle Mota. Can you believe it that we are one day shy of day 100 at the Madlanga? Today is day 99. So we're going to be catching up with Usbatle, finding out exactly what has transpired today, opening today, of course, with an application for postponement that was inevitably denied. But we'll get all the merits of that from our SABC News reporter. And because today is Thursday, we wanted to touch base with you and have a bit of a conversation that's backed by the legal expertise of our guest, who is a labor lawyer and member of the National Assembly. But here is the question, and the foundation of the conversation is, what is your relationship like with your helper or your nanny, whatever you may call her, your helper, your nanny, and how do you guys resolve disagreements? Do you have a very professional relationship where there are clear boundaries that are in place, an employer-employee relationship? Some people have a very familial relationship with their helpers and their nannies, where they become part and parcel of the family in many ways, and the boundaries are very, very few, if they exist at all. And does that make the relationship easier? Or does that perhaps pose a potential challenge for you if the relationship goes sour? Now, you obviously know why also we're having this conversation, because of the headline dispute that transpired between Anele and her helper, Usofi, who we all have become to know over the years because she shared the nature of their relationship. So without discussing that, though, it just led us to have this conversation of, what is your relationship like with your helper or your nanny? We'd love to hear from you. 061 410 and 4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send us a WhatsApp voice note, we're more than welcome to do so. Almost certain half the men are going to go, I don't deal with Usisi or auntie. Umamwekaya deals with her. I don't get involved unless there is a dispute. The men in studio are nodding. 061 410 4107 or 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. And then later on, we're still sticking to the legal. We're going to unpack the repercussions and the consequences that come should you commit CV fraud. What you could be facing legally as a result of that. Let's take a quick pause. We'll be right back.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Top Billing is back with a bold new chapter and fresh new faces leading the way. Get ready to experience the world of luxury, travel, design, and inspiring stories with their dynamic new presenters, Zozibini Ntunzi, Brioni Govender, Arno Khrief, and Sinemi Vuyo Mpulu, bringing their unique style, energy, and perspective to every moment. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3. Of course, this is Thursday, today, the 30th of April at 7 p.m. with repeats on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1. Top Billing is back, and you don't want to miss it.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
All right, it's just gone 20 past 1 o'clock, and Sbahle Mota, our SABC News reporter, is coming to us live from the Madlanga Commission, which is one day shy of hitting day 100 as of today. We're on day 99, and we're seeing, of course, back on the stand, suspended Director for Asset Protection at the Tshwane Metro Police Department, that is Shukuru Malachi, back there facing the commissioners. How are you doing this morning, Sbahle?
Good afternoon to you, Bridget, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming through. Much appreciated. So let's recap. We started today with that application that took up about an hour of the commissioner's time, presented by Malachi's representation.
Yes, Bridget. So Malachi's representation had actually come before the Madlanga Commission requesting a postponement, citing the fact that they received various documents at the 11th hour. Literally, I think one bundle was emailed to them before midnight. And, Busiso Nkosi, who represents Mr. Chukuru Malachi, was saying that he'd definitely like more time to peruse through the documents and actually, familiarize himself with those documents. But Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga actually ruled that proceedings had to continue because, as you know, we are under such a time crunch, and he actually even requested the evidence leader, Mr. Skakani, to point them towards the documents that they'll be using before the Madlanga Commission, which I think it took approximately an hour, and then we were back again to proceed with Chukuru Malachi's testimony. But I think the important thing about this, handing over of documents at the 11th hour, I would like to believe that this is something that the Madlanga Commission has to look into because it's really not the first time, it has happened. Yes, Justice Madlanga would normally say it's not a lot of documents, so you can, you do have the time to just peruse them. You just need 30 minutes. But I think it also just induces so much anxiety with, the legal counsel as well as the defense to say that they would also like to present themselves before the commission while they are really prepared. And even if there is a curveball that there is thrown towards them, then they are prepared for it. So I think this is one important thing that the Madlanga Commission definitely has to look into.
Absolutely. As you say, it's not the first time. I mean, even Suleiman Karim, no matter what we think of the antics and tactics of his legal team, he's also posed this as the fact that they've received hundreds of documentation from the commission at, a last moment or with just a few days to peruse it really. And to say that perhaps we'll be dealing with one, as was the argument this morning by Spusiso Nkosi, to say that the evidence leaders are going to be dealing with one page is not enough of a guarantee, because there's been so much evidence and testimony that's been given that even the commissioners themselves can't necessarily say they'll stick to that one page. You might find yourself having to clarify something that's contained in that 600 odd bundle that you didn't think you'd need clarification on.
No, definitely. And also, you don't also want to come across as a commission that's not giving, some of the witnesses sufficient time to prepare their work and present themselves, because even as Chukuru Malachi's legal counsel was saying that this is not the only matter that they are seized with, so they would like more time to sort of, prepare themselves and familiarize themselves with the case bundles. And also, like you are saying, that they may say they will stick to that one document, but you never know how evidence actually goes, right? You can prepare with that one page or document, but when something else is said by the witness, then it may even propel the commission to go in a certain direction. But I'd like to believe that the commission is quite fair and it will look into this matter, whether it's one document or two documents. But I do believe that the legal counsels, especially the witnesses, should be also given sufficient time to prepare their case and prepare adequately before the commission.
Just on a quick note, Chukuru Malachi, he's denied that he was the one who gave authority for the implicated Gubi's 85 Solutions to receive ad hoc security work.
No, definitely. He's denying the role that he played by actually continuing with this ad hoc security services. And at one time, he even tried to throw Revo Spies under the bus, saying that he had no authority to act on Revo Spies' instructions to stop these ad hoc security services. And this is when we saw Commissioner Sesibaloyi posing to him and asking him, who did you actually report to? And he was trying to evade that question. But ultimately, he does report to the deputy police chief, which in that case, in that instance, was Mr. Revo Spies. So we will expect him to obviously downplay his role in giving ad hoc security services to Gubi's 85 Solutions until I think he finishes his testimony. But there is evidence and there is email communication between him as well as Inspector Lebogang Phiri, which showed that he gave an instruction to Lebogang Phiri, which he interpreted as to continue, issuing these ad hoc security services.
Yesterday, we did not speak, Sbahle, perhaps just on our final note, the latest update from Suleiman Karim's legal representation?
Yes, so Suleiman Karim, was not able to present himself before the Madlanga Commission, and because he's been so sick, so he's in bed rest or on bed rest, and that's when we heard the evidence leader saying that they will postpone his testimony. And I think this was also expected. He suffered a heart attack, so it was not really expected that he would quickly recover and make his way through rather to the Madlanga Commission. So we are expecting him to give testimony sometime. We just don't know when. And also Brown Mokgotsi as well, who has challenged and wants advocates Matthew Shackleton to be recused from his testimony. So those are some of the obstacles that we sort of, that were in our way, I think, on Tuesday, which led to the suspension of the Madlanga Commission yesterday.
Sbahle Mota, thank you so much for the latest update. That was SABC News reporter running us through day 99 at the Madlanga Commission. A quick pause, then we come back with Mike Bugrame, who is a labor lawyer and a member of the National Assembly, and we're looking at your relationship with your helper. How does that fare? 061-410-4107. Would love to hear from you on this.
Bridget Masinga is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, let's get to this conversation, and our WhatsApp line is open on this because we'd like to have this family meeting with you alongside this conversation on 061-410-4107 or 086-000-2032. If you'd like to send us a voice note, you are more than welcome to partake. And the question on the table for you is, what is your relationship with your helper? How is that relationship with your nanny or your domestic helper in Lini? Are you strictly on an employer-employee, very boundary-heavy relationship, or perhaps has it crossed over to almost being a over-familiar family member? And how does that, if you had to think about it, if the worst had to happen between yourself and your helper, or your wife and partner and your helper, how would the context of that relationship assist or hinder what happens next? If you found yourselves in a dispute, with the fact that you are overly friendly with your helper help in resolving that situation, or it might compound it and make it far more complex than it needs to be. Mike Bugrame joins us now, who's a labor lawyer and member of the National Assembly. And we're going to look at domestic workers in South Africa and some of the rights that they enjoy, and perhaps what kind of agreements we should be entering into. How are you doing this afternoon, Mike?
Hi, going well. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on air.
And thank you for the time. We appreciate it. So when we look at the context of domestic workers in South Africa, it goes beyond just the nanny or the helper, uandi, uausi, inside the home. We're looking at almost everybody who's involved with the upkeep of home falls into that category.
Absolutely. It's the definition is domestic worker. And it's anyone that works within the household. So it could be the gardener, it could be the chauffeur, it could be your butler, and it could be your domestic worker as well. So it's everyone that works for the household, and it's for someone in the household to pay. So it's not a business per se, and that's the start of the problem. What we are happy about in South Africa and with the new dispensation, domestic workers are now recognized as workers and get all the rights and duties of the Labour Relations Act, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, all the labour legislation, the 11 pieces of labour legislation, and domestic workers have the benefits of that legislation and the duties contained in that legislation. And the blurring of the relationship that you introduced does create problems at the end of the day, because this is a person that you're living with. It's a person who's working with you in your most intimate moments. Often you'll find domestic workers, it's a lifetime relationship. They're people start working there as a young woman, and she would then work until her old age. So it's someone that's not, it's not like you have a factory where there are 1,000 workers in the factory and you know someone's name, but that's about it. This is a very different relationship, but the law is the same. And the law is appropriate for domestic workers and for a factory manager and for a computer analyst. That's the law, and we need to respect the law and adhere to it. And you find often that the abuse in the household is enormous because you need someone there all the time while you're there, and for dinner and for breakfast and whatever. You find that domestic workers haven't got set hours, they haven't got set roles. It's a very difficult and it's a complex relationship that exists between the domestic worker and the employer.
Yeah.
And when it turns sour, it's a real problem.
Absolutely. And I want us to come back on the conversation and pick up there on the complexity and at times difficultness of this, because how do we put this relationship into structure while still understanding that it literally also lives in that gray area? But we'll come back and explore that on the other side. It's 1:30, time for us to catch up with Ondela.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, the 7th Democratic Local Government elections will be held on the 4th of November. A crime intelligence police officer has been killed and another injured in an ambush in Durban, and the Special Investigating Unit has uncovered a trail of corruption and widespread procurement fraud across several northwest municipalities during a briefing to Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Have an update follows at the top of the hour.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to The Full Circle.
All right, 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Most South Africans, regardless of where you are financially, a lot of people have help around the house, whether Uti Uneni, who takes care of the children, but we also know that in the instance of nannies, they don't just exclusively take care of the children, they also double up as the helper within the household, cleaning and ironing and washing and taking care of all of that. A lot of folks also have umalume or puti that come and do the gardens, and if you are in the upper echelons and can afford a driver or a chauffeur, a lot of folks have that kind of help as well. And we're having this conversation with Umaik, who's a labor lawyer and member of the National Assembly, around that relationship, especially when it becomes complicated and a little bit difficult, because who hasn't found themselves having to deal with a situation with someone who works for you endlini, whether you're having to deal with a situation with your helper and domestic, and it might have the potential of souring things even to a point where you have to terminate that relationship. And what have you done in those instances? How have you navigated yourself through that? 061-410-4107. Do you consider your helper a member of the family, and do you have a relationship with them that has expectations of some kind of loyalty, or do you just work off boundaries? Let's talk about that, Mike. Your sort of the exit point before the headlines was the fact that domestic workers enjoy all the rights of labor legislation as well as all the duties that come with those rights of labor legislation. But this relationship is not cookie cutter. It's not straightforward. It's not linear. It very much exists in the gray areas because of what you said, that we live with these folks. We live with them in our households, and they're there for our most intimate moments. So how do we begin to put some kind of boundary and structure that protects me as an employer, but also protects my domestic worker as somebody who's providing a professional service?
Okay, there are all sorts of problems with this, because the law is one thing, whether people know the law, adhere to the law, and then structure it in accordance with the law is another thing altogether, because from what I understand, and I I run a small law practice. I speak to both domestic workers and employers. Most, if not 80%, that come to me don't have any written contract, which by law they have to have, but they don't have it. Domestic workers don't get pay slips, which by law they have to have, but they don't get it. Domestic workers don't have a structure of their employment. Again, that by law you have to have that structure in place. And the worst part is that domestic workers don't know their rights. And it's very difficult for a trade union to get organized in the domestic sphere, because a trade union is also a profit-making body, and there's only one domestic worker in that particular household, so they'd have to get an organizer to sign up one person. It just doesn't make sense for a trade union, and that's why they've never been successful in the domestic sphere. So we need a lot more education in the domestic sphere for domestic workers. I know that I've, on a few occasions now, held seminars for domestic workers and had to get permission from the employers for them to take off 2 hours for a seminar to know what their rights are. But it's actually good for the employer to know that their domestic worker knows their rights and duties, because otherwise it gets abused and it gets sour. And I must just tell you, another thing is, right up until 3 years ago, domestic workers were not recognized in certain spheres, even under our newfound democracy. Domestic workers were still the backwater of employment. In other words, you couldn't take out a UIF or compensation fund or whatever for workers. Now we have to do it, and it's been recognized, but it's so difficult to get a domestic worker registered. Employers are phoning me all the time and they say, I want to pay in the UIF because when this arrangement terminates, my domestic worker's got nothing.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that employers are giving up trying to register with the UIF, and I've complained to the minister, I've sent in letters. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So most employers just throw up their hands, say to the domestic worker, I can't get it right, I can't pay in your UIF, I'll give you a little bit of an increase which would have covered the UIF, and let's go. But then the employer dies, and what does the domestic worker do? They're looking at the sky, and it's a small salary. The domestic workers are often earning the minimum wage, and so they can't save either. So it is a big problem we're facing in this country.
Tell me, what happens in, and we saw the headline, I don't know if you tracked the story or not, of the situation unfolding, of course, with media personality Anele Mdoja and her long-term helper. And they've invited us into their relationship through the years by way of Anele sharing on social media. For all intents and purposes, we thought they had a stellar gold example relationship of employer-employee. But things have obviously soured, and though we don't know the merits of that situation, it's come into the CCMA. The CCMA has ruled in favor of the helper. What happens in moments of dispute? Before we even get to a CCMA, what should we be doing as employees of domestic workers? How do we try to resolve this situation?
Well, simply put, is you do need a contract. And you can get these contracts online. You can go to the CCMA website or to the Department of Employment and Labour website, have a look at a simple contract, sit down with the domestic worker, even if the domestic worker has been with you for 10 years already, sit down and say, listen, let's put on paper what it is you get paid, what is expected of you, what is expected of me when you retire, how are we going to ensure that you get your UIF right, your workman's compensation right, and how are we going to organize a departure between the two of us? Like when a married couple get together, they're lovey-dovey, that's fine, but then you still sign an anti-nuptial contract because that one day it might be, someone might do something naughty or fall out of bed or whatever it is, and then you've got at least that contract that somehow defines how we're going to part ways. And that is not happening in South Africa. And look, domestic workers have arguments with their employer all the time because it gets fraught. People are nervous about something, and then they've got to pick on someone. It happens all the time. And for one, I very carefully put together a contract. I very carefully put together a pension, and I very carefully outlined exactly what is needed, what isn't needed, and also created a structure where the domestic worker could speak to a neighbor when there is a complaint. Because there will be complaints, and I've had a bad day at work. I really want to shout at someone, and I'll end up shouting at a domestic worker. Well, then what does the domestic worker do?
Yeah.
And where does she complain? She hasn't got a union. She hasn't got a management structure. And so I've tried to put in a structure like that. And look, I rely heavily on a domestic worker. I can't run my life without a domestic worker.
Mike,
And
let's just pause there for a second. We'll come back on the other side, because as you're talking, I have a bit of I have a thought about where the apprehension might lie. But let's come back and explore that in our final minutes on the other side. It's 2 o'clock.
SAFM music, crafted to make you feel real good. Handpicked just for your pleasure. Classics sounding so good, only on SAFM.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
My producers are running a testing on our WhatsApp, but let me tell you what my suspicion is. My suspicion is for this family meeting, because it hits so close to home, a lot of folks might not want to have this conversation out of fear of it will expose me for being a bad employer. It will expose me to not sticking to what Mike is suggesting by way of the labor laws and what they say should be a good employment contract between myself and my helper. Because if we are being honest, a lot of helpers out there, you see it with the questions when people put them out in January, Mike. You'll go on X, formerly known as Twitter, and there's always two questions you see in January, February. One, did your helper come back? As in, did Ausi, the nanny, did she come back from holiday? Because then it will say whether or not we can interpret if you are a good employer, or you are not. The fact that she ran away from you. And how much, people always go, how much should I be paying my helper? And then brave folks will share the money that they are paying, those who are meeting the minimum wage and even surpassing it. And those who are not will often argue about, oh no, but 5,000 plus is too much. I can't afford that. And I think that's the apprehension of this conversation all the time. When people are sitting listening to us, if we had to throw a spanner in the works, people are probably apprehensive to be involved in this conversation, because it would be a reflection of how good or bad they are as an employer in taking care of the most vulnerable employee in their household.
And you're absolutely correct. And in fact, a lot of employers are saying, well, it's not my employee, she's part of the family, so if she has to do extra work, well, we all chip in and we do extra work. You don't need to get paid for it. And that's a feeling you find often, that part of the family. I don't have to pay for it. She doesn't need leave. I mean, we're all together. We're all on leave together. And it becomes almost as if a person forgets that actually this is an employee. This is a person that is owed. They're not doing it for the love of your family. They might love the family, but they're doing it also as a profession. We need to recognize this is an integral part of your life, and in fact your professional life. I couldn't run my life as a lawyer without domestic work. I've become completely reliant because I spend most of my time in my office. I can't clean my home. I can't cook my meals. I can do nothing for myself, absolutely nothing. And I need to recognize that this is an integral part of my professional career as well. And like you see anywhere else in the world, South Africans have become a bit too complacent about it. But I was staying with a friend of mine in the United States for 3 weeks, and this domestic worker arrived, it was a he, arrived in a motor vehicle, swept the entire house, cleaned it, it was like a hurricane, moved me out of the lounge to go sit on the patio, and did everything that was necessary, and then demanded these days' payment. And they were at the beck and call of the domestic worker.
Yeah.
So that was, so over here, we're still treating the domestic worker as an adjunct to the family, and the domestic worker is not qualified to do anything. And, we give her a minimum salary, and yes, she could eat here as well. So what else does she expect? That's ridiculous. So,
in our final minute, Mike, someone just asked, and they want to be anonymous, how does board and lodgings factor into remuneration? And I think we'll tack that on with another question around what happens if, for instance, you had offered gifts, or you were paying for your domestic workers' children's studies, or, upskill them with driving lessons and computer lessons. What happens when we fall out in these situations? And we've got about 2 minutes for
okay, well, the board and lodging can be a claim up to 25% to make up that salary. So board and lodging, the other stuff, no. Gift, you can't, once you've given a gift, that's it. You can't recall the gift. And you can't count it in as your salary, not at all. And if you're paying for the child to go to university, well, that's good for you, but it certainly doesn't impact on the domestic worker's salary. And you can't recover any of it if you fall out of bed. That's, forget about it. You can understand that's the same as in a factory. If I want to send someone on a course to upskill themselves on a certain machine, I can't, once they leave, I can't say to them, well, I've paid for your education, you must pay it back.
Yeah.
So no, and a gift is a gift. I mean, you can't go and grab a gift back. That's really, I mean, it's almost ridiculous to think about it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it does break down. All relationships break down at some stage or other. And it's sad when it does do that. And also when people retire, you should make some provision. There's no provision in the law, but you should make some provision because this person has dedicated their lives to you.
Yeah. We have one more question that we'd like to sneak in as we wrap up the conversation.
Hi, Guy here from Stellenbosch. I have a domestic helper who earns good enough money, got a contract, gets leave, pay UIF or have been paying UIF for a number of years. And then suddenly, a couple of months ago, or in fact, it's now a number of months ago, UIF, I just was no longer able to do my monthly returns on the U-filing system. And for the past, I don't know, 10 or 12 months, I haven't been able to pay UIF. For love or money, I've emailed them, I've phoned them. I cannot get any action from them to be able to pay the UIF. I don't know what the system is, what the holdup is. Apparently, they've changed the system, but I don't even know how to actually register anybody anymore. Some help would be really, really helpful.
Guy in Stellas is definitely doing all the right stuff. Contract in
Yes.
place, leave in
But
place, earns well, but UIF being the hindrance. Well, the UIF platform being the
The
hindrance.
UIF platform is a nightmare. You know that as well as I know that. And maybe what he could do, you can give him off air my email address, and I'll try and assist him by tackling the UIF commissioner, because I do get results. But that complaint, like we started off, that complaint is absolutely pervasive. Literally hundreds of people are trying their utmost to get their UIF up to date. And you know what, if you can't get the UIF, and you've also got a problem with the compensation fund, and if that domestic worker falls off a ladder while actually trying to clean your window and breaks both legs, well, that's going to be 6 months off, and who's going to pay? So you need that compensation fund. It's desperate.
Yeah.
You need it there in place.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to give the email address afterwards.
All right. So we'll definitely do that, Guy, out in Stellies. We'll forward you Mike's email address so you can follow up on that UIF. But definitely doing all the right things there. Mike, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Much appreciated. That was Mike Bachreim, who is a labor lawyer and member of the National Assembly. A quick pause and then we'll come back on the other side.
Moro, Moni, Dumela, Bonjour, Habari. You arrived in South Africa to build something better. New place, new challenges, new responsibilities. Now you can with the Mama Money bank account. Pay your rent, take care of your daily needs, build your life, and when your family needs you, you don't wait. You send money home, quickly, securely, from wherever you are. Because this is more than money, it's progress. Buy your Mama Money card today at Pick n Pay or a Mama Money agent. Mama Money, now you can.
When you listen to me, I feel important. When you hug me, I feel safe. When you talk with me, I learn.
Your love and attention helps your child grow strong and confident. Listen, comfort, and connect with him because every child deserves to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Top Billing brings you the very best in lifestyle, luxury and inspiration, from breathtaking homes and dream destinations to exclusive access to the people shaping culture and success. This is where style meets substance and every story shines. Tune into the new season of Top Billing on S3, Thursdays at 7 p.m. starting from the 30th of April, which is today, with repeats on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1. You can also stream Top Billing live on SABC Plus, available on all app stores and on your smart TV. Top Billing, the best of the good life.
Stages, pages, screens, and more on The Full Circle.
All right, a quick catch up with Yanni Briel, owner of Die Pink Kerk, for stages, pages, screens, and more. And this is a new cultural hub and venue. How are you doing this afternoon?
Very well, thank you, and yourself.
Great. Thank you so much for coming through. I mean, talk to me. Tell me the story about Die Pink Kerk, the Pink Church.
That's correct, yeah. Well, the Pink Kerk started in September. We opened up, and it's just one of my dreams that I wanted to do, because I was driving past it always for 5 years, and every time I saw it, it's like, oh gosh, I have to do something with you because you are so beautiful, and I just decided to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah. Okay. So the history of this venue, because I read it was constructed back in 1903.
That's 100% correct. Yeah, it was 1903. It was It was a synagogue from Melville. It started as a church, and then after that it was a Methodist church, and from that it was another church, and then it was a few things. It started as a ballet school, I think it was, and it was an architect's offices. So it was a couple of things. And there was an etching studio that you could do etching and thing from an artist, and then it was empty after COVID.
Oh, I mean, so it's physically a building that's had. Oh, don't worry, you don't need those. I think it was me. I think I'd forgotten to switch on my mic. So it's physically been a building that's gone through many lifetimes and sort of many evolutions of what it is and is what it was intended to be initially.
Exactly, and then. It was, so LeBrun bought it.
Okay.
He's still the current owner of the property, and he bought it. And then there's a whole big thing about it saying, "Hallelujah, church is sold." It was a whole big thing in the radio or in the papers, yeah. And then LeBrun actually lived in it for a while.
Oh.
So it was dilapidated. He just had to fix the windows. People moved in there, and they started making fire there, and so then he bought it, yeah. And he just fixed it up a little bit, and then he moved in, and yeah, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
We've just the double garage we've made into a kitchen that we've done, and we had to do a little coffee bar in front, but otherwise the rest of the church, the structure, the architect, everything is exactly the same.
By the way, because my mind is already on holiday mode, did I ask you where the Pink Kerk is?
No.
Where is it?
Richmond.
Which Richmond?
Richmond in Melville.
Oh.
Just on the corner there of Chateau and... I forgot the street name now. But it's in Chateau Road, yeah.
Okay.
And First.
Okay,
First
now
Avenue,
I'll
Melville.
mosey past and have a look at it. I mean, what an interesting sort of metamorphosis of this space. I'm a big believer in that the physical being of a brick and mortar space holds so many memories and such history. Like, walls do speak. So when you had a look at this venue and it spoke to you saying, I now could be this, and you envisioned it. What was the thinking in terms of, oh my goodness, how do we breathe new life into the space? How do we bring new people into the space in interesting ways that also push the envelope?
Very interesting question. When I walked in there the first time, I looked at it and I thought, oh my word, it was postbox red inside. It was red, like Father Christmas, his suit. Every single wall, the roof, everything was it. And I just looked at it, but as I looked at it, I felt at peace. I felt calm, relaxed, and I looked at it, I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then, it just came to me, all the ideas, everything. And I Googled and I looked at, I was the only one in South Africa that actually, the first church that did a little restaurant. That renovated into a restaurant. So a lot of people has been looking at this space, driving past, and they say, oh, something is going on, something's happening there. And when I opened up, every single patron person that walked into the church, like, oh, I wanted to buy this. Oh, I wanted to do this. Oh, I was wondering what's happening here. So, it's a lot of people that came in there.
Right.
So it's just, I think it's just because of people want to see what does it look like inside.
Yes, absolutely.
And what does it feel like to go sit in a church, have a slice of cake, have dinner, have a glass of wine. That's even the better, in the church.
So, what does that feel like? Because I think as you're talking, I remember being in the Eastern Cape, in Makanda, for one of the festivals. And Msaki was performing in the church there at Makanda. And a lot of folks were like, oh, sacrilege, a performance in the church. And I thought to myself, you should see what we did in this very same church a few festivals back. So what is that like? What are people saying about the experience in the space?
They are loving it. We've actually just been nominated on the South African restaurant website for overall best guest experience.
Oh, wonderful.
So we're very excited about that. So people actually just love it. They love sitting there because it's calm, it's relaxed. Yes. Our music is so beautiful. We do jazz. So it's not singing jazz, it's just background jazz music.
Yeah.
And it's just, they love the space. They all come in like, oh, it's so nice. Look at the roof. And they all sit there.
I love
so
it.
they just love it,
Well, listen, yesterday was International Jazz Day, so a wonderful time for us to be, pushing this event, this venue, going into winter. And also interesting that you take over the space. I'm not a restaurateur. I have no idea, just my perception. South Africans are lazy eaters. We come in early, we have one meal, and we leave. I often wonder how friends who are in restaurants and run successful restaurants, often wonder, how do you do it? Because I look at our dining out habits, 7, 8:30, we are out of your place, or we're just occupying a table. It's unlike if you're traveling overseas. You'll have a 6 o'clock dinner run, an 8 o'clock dinner run, a 10 o'clock dinner run, especially in the US, late eaters. So restaurants are able to turn over the same table 3 times. How in this space do you sort of have longevity? How do you have to plan to have longevity? And in these quiet moments, you've taken it over in September, we're going into winter now, it gets a bit more quiet. How are we getting, listeners and people in to experience the church?
I do shows as well. So that's one thing. So to bring them in, we do shows. So we have Amanda Stradom coming in for Mother's Day.
Oh, lovely.
With that. We had Leanda Madope doing jazz evening on a Saturday. We had Tonya Kunderman in. We have Yanni Dutoy coming in to do a show. We had Elsie Zitzman there. So I have to be creative to bring people in the whole time. As you say, they come in early and they leave early. But with us, it's a different story. They come in early and they stay for 3 hours because they sit and they listen to the music and they have a glass of wine. They talk to each other and I'm like, is everything okay? Everything fine on your table? Yeah. We just love it. It feels like we're sitting in our own living room. That's
wonderful.
what they say. So that's how we do it. So we have to be creative. We do burger specials on Friday. We have a pensioners day on a Thursday. A fish and chips for 99 rand. With a glass of wine. I mean, seriously?
Really?
Yeah, you don't even have to be a pensioner.
Because
you know what I mean?
You saw my face. I was like, I'm asking for myself. Is that like an all-day special?
All day special. So we do that, and we're going to bring in some pizzas now. So
Yeah.
maybe on a pizza Friday or a Thursday, we're going to or a Wednesday we'll do pizzas as well. So we have to be innovative the whole time, getting the crowd in, getting the people in. Because if I just stay as a normal restaurant,
Yeah.
like you say, it's people coming in and they leave, and there's nothing to draw attraction. So I have to get all these shows going as well. in the
Absolutely.
restaurant.
And then in our final minute and a half, I'm also just thinking about the aspect of Instagrammability. We just showcased the space last week where one of the driving factors for a big international brand, luxury brand, to give them the right to launch this space was Instagrammability. Apparently, South Africans are very Instagrammable.
Oh, yeah. At the moment, they are.
Right?
Yes.
So there's got to be that element in the space that people are like, oh, I want to be seen at that place, whatever that place is.
That's correct. And that's the Pink Church. They take photos at the Pink Church. They also go to the art gallery because we have an art gallery called 1903 that's run independently by different people. And two guys that actually run that for me, Derek Smith and Peter. And they do that. And people go in there and then they take pictures of the art and they take pictures of themselves in the gallery. We've got a little corner around the corner from by the bathrooms. We have Trouvé. That's a little gift shop. So you come in there and if you want to buy a little gift, you can also buy a little gift there because there's candles and bath salts and bags and everything. People are taking photos every single way. They're like, do you mind if we take photos? One very Instagram photo that we have is we serve dry ice with our food. I call it drama. So it's like, where's the drama? The drama's not out. There's no drama. Then they put the dry ice and they take it. It's just smoke everywhere. And people just take. That's a very big thing on Instagram at the moment. I don't know, website at Facebook. Everybody just takes pictures and, post it.
I love it. Well, listen, you're ticking all the boxes for a life experience, and we love to hear it. It's the art of living, after all. So the next time you have some time, go visit the Pink Kerk and, of course, 1903. I love that name for a gallery, by the way. And go check out the space, and let's see it on Instagram. Yanni, thank you so much for popping in. Much, much appreciated. It's 2:00. It's time for Onderland, the top of the hour news.
Thank you.
Capacity which you said, and the report that was earlier provided that the sites were not monitored properly. You accept that?
Correct, yes.
And we have to also accept we have to accept, then we have to get into the authority about deployments. And the last time the interest was around the deployments of January 2025. And that was closer, that had Mr. Piri. Everyone said Mr. Piri's evidence was that you instructed him to issue those notices of deployment where you signed them. Do you want us to go to them? Or you remember those deployment letters?
Commissioner, I do not remember instructing Mr. Piri to deploy any ad hoc service, either in January or before.
Okay. So your evidence is that previously you've never instructed Mr. Piri or Inspector Piri to issue deployment letters?
Normally, without having to repeat what I've said, but in brief, deployment letters are issued in respect of services, ad hoc services that have taken note of the SOP directive that I alluded to earlier on. So any ad hoc service that was undertaken without alluding to the SOP as indicated earlier on, would not have a deployment certificate signed by our office. But now, if it happened that he signed them, he did it out of his own, not with my instruction.
Okay. Would you also accept that at some point those may have gotten to your desk and you signed for them? You can't make that comment.
Come again?
I'm saying, do you know if you would have seen the deployments of January, that you've signed? Or invoices relating to those?
It could be, but unfortunately,
yes, it could be.
I'm not having.
Okay, not as sufficient.
Okay.
That's fine. Then Mr. Peary came, or maybe before that, when did you become aware that Mr. Peary, or Inspector Peary, I apologize, now Major, signed these deployment letters?
Which deployment letters are you referring to?
The one of January 2025.
I don't remember seeing such signed deployment letters. I do not remember.
Okay, that's fine. Could we then go to file 5? Page 52. This is an annexure. It's a trail of emails from Mr. Peary and yourself and Herman Sikholela from the Department of Water and Sanitation. The version that Mr. Peary gave before this commission was that this discussion via emails and later on in meetings, you gave him authority or delegation, using the term loosely, to issue deployment letters in respect of sites that the Department of Water and Sanitation required. What would be your comment to that version?
My comment is simple, straight to the point. By ordering Mr. Peary to convene a meeting or attend a meeting, I was not in any way giving him authority or delegating him responsibility, a duty to deploy any ad hoc services. So it happens very often, not only with ad hoc services. If you are held up somewhere and there is something important for discussion, you assign whoever to go and attend that meeting, but attending a meeting does not mean I've delegated a duty or responsibility for him to deploy the...
No, that's fair enough. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but your version is that you never delegated him. And
let me take you to the email just before that. And that email and a couple of others demonstrate, at least on my reading, that the overarching purpose of all these email exchanges was ultimately to have a deployment. That one is from Mr. Herman Sikholela. It's at the foot of page 52. It's addressed to, amongst others, you. And it says, do you see it?
I see it.
Yes. Good day. We have responded and forwarded all the information needed by Metro Police Department. We are still waiting for them to confirm deployment. That's what water and sanitation want, it's deployment. And then it says, today I just received the bad report that the Klapperkop water pump station has been badly vandalized during the festives. Mr. Malaji, kindly urgently confirm when you may be able to deploy. So this is about deployment, security, as the sites are vulnerable to further vandalism. And then there's the one about an urgent meeting that you just referred to. I will skip, and by skipping, that's going backwards, because as we discussed this earlier, the emails will start from the bottom up. I will take you to page 44. There again, it's an email from Mr. Sikholela. That's the person I referred to earlier this morning as an engineer. I think he is an engineer, but the important thing is that he's from water and sanitation. Again, he's writing to you, and he says, good day, Mr. Malaji. Attached, find the updated list of security deployment need. So it's on the basis of the repeated reference to deployment, that I'm saying what's overarching here is deployment. And then I will next take you to page 43. Now it's you writing, and you are writing to Kwapeng E at Gmail. Who's Kwapeng?
Senior Soup Madlanga, Colonel Madlanga.
Or Dr.
Madlanga, yes.
Dr. Madlanga. Okay. And you say, good evening. Kindly find request from Mr. Herman from the Department of Water and Sanitation for further handling. And then you say, please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor progress. Bear in mind that throughout, the overarching purpose is deployment, deployment, deployment. So Mr. or Major Piri says this is what instructed him to deploy. In context, that does appear to make sense, or that does seem to make sense. Do you care to comment?
My comment is starting with me ordering Mr. Piri to attend the meeting.
Let's leave the meeting.
Okay.
You've discussed that with Mrs. Kakane. Let's leave that.
Okay. It is not true that by instructing them to run with the process, I was meaning that they should continue deploying security, because they themselves know very well that in order for deployment to be carried out, right, there must be a...
Are you going to refer to the SOP again?
Exactly, right.
And it starts with what? With the request from the relevant department?
Exactly, and
which there was here. There are repeated requests.
Yes,
and Mr. Sikholela goes so far as to say there's continuing vandalism. So there is a request.
Yes, Commissioner, I agree with you. There is a request. But that request, it runs short of critical information that is necessary for both of us to comply with the SOP that I alluded to earlier on. There shall be no deployment done unless the department requesting security has committed funds to service the deployment. Number two, the department...
As you sit there, are you able to say no funds had been committed as you sit there? Or are you making an assumption?
At this point in time, at the point when we were communicating,
As you sit there now, are you saying funds were not committed? Or are you making an assumption that they were not?
No, if my memory serves me well, there were no funds committed at that point in time.
Okay, continue.
So, apart from the issue of the funds, the SOP requires it of us to make sure that there is a critical element of for how long are we requesting this ad hoc services, right? So it was imperative for us through period Madlanga, right, to have those things before a decision could be taken to deploy security. So if I go, having gone through this, right, I do not see anywhere where they came back to me with...
You couldn't sit and fold your arms and wait for them to come back to you, not when Mr. Herman Sekgolela had repeatedly asked for urgent deployment, and not for the sake of it. He says in so many ways that there is continuing vandalism and that the Klapperkop reservoir has recently been vandalized. You couldn't sit and fold your arms. So if you interpret the sentence that says, please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor progress. If you interpret that sentence differently from Mr. Piri's interpretation, what became of that process and your monitor? What became of that? Because if you never did anything that saw that process to the end, we may well be forced to interpret this in the same manner as Major Piri does. Because from your answer, you seem to suggest that you just sat and waited for them to come back to you and tell you what happened eventually. If that's what you did, or at least if that's what you say you did, we may be inclined to interpret this email in the same way as Major Piri. Your comment? Or maybe let me ask this first. Did you do anything after this email? If you did, what did you do?
Commissioner, I did not sit. I've been engaging with Piri and Madlanga about the budget issue, right? The budget issue, because the directive is very clear. Whether there is vandalism that is...
Where's the record of that? Throughout we have emails, you yourself have been writing. If you'll suddenly say to us that I suddenly engaged orally, that will be very odd in the context of what was happening here. Emails were being exchanged. Where's an exchange, an email exchange that shows that beyond this point you did engage?
Commissioner, can I say this, if it is allowed?
Yes.
Right. I did not buy, I did not instruct or delegate.
That's not what I'm asking you. That's not what I'm asking you. I said, you have said, Piri, must run with the process and let's monitor progress. So I want to see the progress. I don't want you to answer whether you in fact gave an instruction. That's not what that's not where I am right now. I want to see what you did beyond this email. What did you do, if anything at all? And if you say it was oral, that will be hard to believe, because throughout and up to this point, you were all engaging each other by way of email. What did you do beyond this point, if anything at all?
From record perspective, it is clear that there were no further communications. But the absence of that does not necessarily mean I gave either Piri or Mahlaba.
Again, I'm not asking you whether you gave an instruction or not. I'm saying, or I'm asking, did you do anything at all beyond this email of the 9th of January 2025 at 8:49 p.m.? Did you do anything at all? No, I'm looking at a wrong one. I'm looking at, the date is still the same, the 9th of January 2025 at 20:45. Your email to Wapeng E. That's the email in which you say, please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor. So I'm saying, beyond that email, did you do anything at all? If you did, what did you do?
Commissioner, it is on record now, right? There is no email indicating what was done, but...
I'm not asking about whether there is an email. What, if anything at all, did you do, Director?
Commissioner, I'm struggling to get the right word, right? I've issued an instruction. They must run with the process. Running with the process, meaning to do due diligence. They did not come back to me, right? Yes. The commissioner is saying, what did you do?
Yes, I want to know what you did. Because you cannot say, once I gave the instruction that Piri must run with the process, then you waited and did nothing at all. You yourself actually say in this, you must monitor progress. So you yourself undertook to monitor progress. So what, if anything at all, did you do after you had written this email? I'm asking this question for the umpteenth time now.
Commissioner, I know from where I am sitting and where the commissioner is sitting, what will convince the commissioner is something in black and white, because...
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be in black and white. But of course, I will say, if you suddenly say it was oral when everything else was through emails, we may be inclined we may be inclined to find it hard to believe. But I'm not confining you to emails. What, if anything at all, did you do after this email?
Allow me, Commissioner, to put it on record again, right? I've issued my subordinates with...
You're supporting what?
I issued my subordinates.
Subordinate?
Yes, with an instruction, right? They had a duty, let alone me having to prove. They had a duty to come back to me and say, this is how far we've gone, so that I could evaluate, right, whatever they say they have done.
That cannot be enough. That cannot be enough. You have also undertaken to monitor progress. So if they do not come back to you, you too have a duty to monitor. So that means you going back to them and asking them what's going on with the instruction I gave. So it's not enough for you to basically you are saying, in the face of vandalism that was taking place, in the face of several requests by Mr. Herman Sekholela, you just sat and folded your arms and waited for people who were not coming back to you to come back to you.
I do not agree, Commissioner.
Yes.
I don't agree.
Yes.
The reason why I am not agreeing.
What exactly do you not agree with?
I'm not agreeing with the fact that I just sat, folded arms, and waited my subordinates to respond. I'm saying
that because you said they had an obligation or a duty to do the things that you are referring to, and to then come back to you, and they never did. My understanding of that is that you are basically saying because they never came back to you, you too did not do anything.
I think I will not be able to satisfy the Commissioner on this one in terms of my response, but the long and short of my response with regard to deployment, right? I've never instructed both to continue with deployment of security.
Thank you. I'll close by saying again, that's not my question, but I will leave it there.
Director Malachi, your evidence before this commission concerns me. You'll see that on page 52, where Chair referred you to, it was concern about vandalism at Klaperkop Water Station, and the other one, there were two. And that was on the 6th of January. If you look at that email on page 52. The following day, on page 60, you give an instruction, Tuesday, January 7, 2025 at 11:38. You give an instruction that the service provider will resume deployment of security guards today, 7 January 2025 at 1800 hours, at the very stations that the chair was engaging you on. So you gave an instruction that the deployment will happen from that day. So for you to come to this commission and say, I never gave an instruction to deploy because my subordinates had to do due diligence first, that is untruthful. Because that is your email where you say deployment will happen today at 1800 hours. Do you see that? We are on page 60, Director Malachi.
I am on page 60.
And do you see that in your email you said deployment to these three sites, to these two sites, was to commence at 1800 hours on that day?
Yes, it is my...
So you did authorize those deployments, and when Mr. Piri issued letters in respect of these two sites, it was because you had authorized these deployments.
No, they, Commissioner, they, I admit I issued instruction, and if you look at the subject on my email, right, it talks to GL account for security services, Klaperkop, Brickfields pump stations, as listed here below, right? Without even, if you go to page 61, Herman Sekholela, right? GL account for security services, right? He indicates, hi Gary, so I agree with your suggestion to utilize job in GL. It is the one relevant for this purpose. Colleagues, the GL and cost center for the security are as follows. In as far as deployment of Klapperkop and Brickfield substations, they are concerned, there are three. The department here has complied fully with the SOP that I alluded to earlier on. Hence, my instruction, right, said the deployment will commence, right, at 18 hours. So, as the Commissioner.
But Mr. Malachi, on page 52, Chair was engaging you on the same Klapperkop water pump station. And when Chair was engaging you, you said you never gave instruction for deployment.
No.
Mr. Malachi, go to page 52 and see what 52 deals with.
I am on page 52.
Do you see that it deals with Klapperkop? Today, I've just received a bad report that Klapperkop water station has been badly vandalized during the festivities. That's what the chairperson was engaging you on. It continues on 53. Mr. Malachi, kindly confirm when we may be able to deploy security, as the sites are vulnerable to further vandalism. That's the very email Chair was engaging you on. And when he asked you, in the face of this and in the face of the request for deployment, what did you do? You said, I never gave an instruction to deploy because, one, there should have been due diligence. Two, there should have been a determination of the duration of the deployment. Yet, on page 60, before those things are done, there's no due diligence, there's no determination of how long the deployment is going to be. You authorized the deployment. And arising from this email, Mr. Phiri issued letters of deployment to these sites. So for you to sit there and say, I did not authorize this, I was still waiting for my team to do a deployment and to assess how long the deployment is going to be. Sorry, the due diligence and how long the deployment is going to be. It's simply false.
I think my response was I responded not being aware of the email on page 60, right? So
your evidence changes when you see documents. It's not the truth. You will change it as and when you see documents or as and when you become aware of documents.
Not necessarily, Commissioner. I think the Commission must take note of the fact that we are dealing with quite a number of issues here, right? Sometimes it might happen that when I'm exposed to what actually has happened, right, that would touch on what you call on the evidence that I'm doing. But in this instance, right, I'm exposed to the evidence. Yes, due diligence to a very large extent was done. Confirmation has been made by the department. Hence, I issued an instruction, right, to say deploy on Klapperkop, deploy on Brickfield substation, as per the scope of work that I've done.
Let me tell you what then happened after this, after you instructed that there be a deployment. The same water and sanitation went to Phiri because you said Phiri must run with the process. If you go to page 50 of the same bundle, and the email to which that attachment relates is on page 44. And you were copied on this. It's 9 January 2025.
Yes.
It says, good day, Mr. Malachi. Attached find the updated list of security deployment needs. So they were saying in addition to the two, there are these additional sites. Where you find those additional sites is on page 50.
Okay.
And letters were then issued because you had already authorized deployment on the basis that there was vandalism. Letters were then issued that there should be security on these sites as well. That's what happened. And you were copied, so you can't say, I did not know, I was not aware, because these emails are all sent to you. You can see that the email on page 44 is sent to you.
I hear you, Commissioner.
Yes. Now, I want to ask you about the January invoices, because we know that these sites, the additional sites, were added. In February, when Gubis invoiced for the ad hoc services in January, did you sign those invoices? Because the January invoices would have been issued sometime in February, either in the middle part on the 10th or later in February. But we do know that at the end of January, Gubis would have been entitled to invoice. Did you sign and authorize those invoices in February?
I wouldn't say yes or no unless.
No, Mr. Malachi.
Commissioner, can I please be given
Please explain, yes.
opportunity to explain? I wouldn't say yes or no unless, without having to say this is how the Commission should direct questions to me, right? Unless I'm exposed to those emails that I've signed, and questions are based on something that I am seeing, right? Probing me on something that I am seeing. But now, just for the Commission to expect me to some thug responses, I don't think it is fair. That is why, as we move on, I would always be accused of not answering properly. But the bottom line is, I should be exposed to the evidence. And yes, as we move on, right, you allow me an opportunity to explain where it is necessary to explain. But under the circumstances, I feel like I'm being ambushed. See? So, which...
Are you saying, Director, you may have, but you do not recall? Is that the long and short of what you are saying?
Exactly, Commissioner.
There's a reason why I'm asking you this question, Director Malachi. You see, you told this Commission that you were not aware of this ad hoc appointments until much later. Now, what I'm asking you is a factual issue. Either you approved invoices or you did not. Because if you approved the invoices for January, there's no way you can sit there and say, you don't know what those invoices are for. Because the invoices will tell you it's for this deployment at this site for January 2025. And that's your job. As we have shown you with the June 2024 invoice, it came to you, you stamped it, you signed it. Had we not confronted you with that invoice, you would also have denied and said, I don't know. I never became aware of this ad hoc deployments. I did not authorize anybody to deploy. But if you sign those invoices, then your suggestion that you were not aware of this deployment is simply false. And because it's your job, you should be able to answer that question. You should be able to say, yes, because no invoice can be paid without my involvement. They would have had to come to me. I would have stamped them and signed them. And that's how they would have gotten paid. You are not being ambushed. You came here to deal with the Gubis deployments and the payments to Gubis. That's why the emails that are attached here, and they show that over 5 months it was paid 82 million. They relate exactly to the topic we are discussing. It's not something outside of the topic that we are discussing. If you know, you can say, I know. If you don't know, I don't know, or I don't remember.
Commissioner, I hear you and I agree with you, right? The thing is, the difficulty I sometimes come across, right? You say, I do not remember. It is said, no, it means you are not doing what you are supposed to do, right? It's an assumption. But the long and short of this whole thing is, right, I'm coming to the additional lists, page 50, right? Allow me to put it on record, Commissioner, that Mr. Soholela has taken advantage of my email dated the 7th of January. He knows very well, he should know very well, that for each site, there must be GL account number, right, provided. So, having received my approval as per this email, all right, he decided to put additional sites. But I'm stating it that it was wrong of him to do that. You see, he was supposed to do as he did with Klaperkop and others, right? Avail GL account number budget from which this additional site would be serviced.
The email on page 44 that attaches an updated list of security deployments is sent to you. If you held the view that they must get GL accounts and other things, then you would have responded to them and said there won't be any further deployments until you have followed the process that you followed as set out on page 60. So now you're acting as if they did all this behind your back. They added the additional sites behind your back. But the email on page 44 is addressed to you. So if you thought a different process had to be followed, you could have responded to that email and said, this is not the correct process, follow a different process. Instead, what you do 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, which is the email Chair took you to on page 43, you said, colleagues, note the request for further handling. Please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor the progress. You did not say, no, unless there's a GL number, we should do nothing about those sites. Unless there's budget, we should do nothing about those sites. Instead, you said, please note the updated list for further handling. Piri will run with it and monitor the progress. That's what you said. You see that you responded, it's 10 minutes later. 2034 is on page 44, 9 January. Page 43, 2045, you note the request and you say Piri must run with it. So that's the sequence. Do you see that?
Please
Director Malachi, do you, maybe to try and shorten this, do you accept that at page 43, that's an instruction to Piri to action the request from Water and Sanitation, where you say, Piri to run with the process and let's monitor progress. Do you accept that you're instructing him to action the request from Water and Sanitation?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Skakana.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. So We now move from the premise, if I hear you correctly, is that you did issue instructions to Mr. Piri. Unless I'm misunderstanding.
Yes, I did instruct Piri. It was on the 7th of January, yes.
All right, so I think it just in the interest, can we just be clear? If you go to page 60.
Page 60. Page 60.
60.
Yes.
Why did you copy copies in that email?
Six zero.
Yes,
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. I think the reason why I copied Andrew and Calvin.
And
the reason
Zakir.
the reason is simple, right? The reason is simple that they were, in my view, already having instruction to deploy. Actually, yes, to deploy on the sites, right?
Sorry, you said you assumed.
Let me check. Let's before I respond to your commissioner, can we go to that Herman Sokholela's request, initial request?
Page.
It should be page 61. Does it follow from there?
Okay,
Please give us the page.
Okay, I'm on page 60.
60.
Yes.
I thought you were looking for something else.
Yes, no, I was checking on
Okay, all right.
Do you perhaps want to look at page 55 and see if that's not what you're looking for? That's a date before page 60. It's a date that comes before what you see on page 60.
Okay.
Commissioner, you said page 55.
Yes.
There's
an email from Sikholela in November 25.
Yes.
I think my answer to the question, why did I copy Gubis, right? It came from the experience that Herman and the department were preferring Gubis or I'm not sure if I might have checked with Madlanga or Piri in terms of the service provider, but the bottom line is it was I thought they were continuing with Gubis as they've been what you're calling going forward.
So we can conclude that this was an assumption.
I assumed.
Now, in terms of...
Can we just check that? Mr. Piri, my recollection of his evidence on this aspect was that Gubis was already appointed by Water and Sanitation. They'd already been chosen because Water and Sanitation said they've worked with them, they're happy with their work elsewhere, and so that's who they wanted to do this part of the work. Is that perhaps what you're referring to?
Exactly, Commissioner.
In addition to that, according to Major Piri, they had, or other Gubis had actually been deployed. I have no idea by whom, but on 31 December 2024, they were actually on site. And Major Piri says he told them to get off site. So perhaps what you had in mind was that history, what Commissioner Baloyi is referring to, and also the actual fact of deployment, which was terminated by Major Piri according to his testimony. So perhaps you had in mind that history or not really.
I do not have that history of termination in mind, Commissioner.
Oh, but you had already begun to respond to Commissioner Baloyi and say yes to what Commissioner Baloyi proposed to you, which is what had happened in November. Yes. I'm sorry I interrupted you because your response was a clear yes to the proposition. Let's leave it there. You said yes. Yes, Mrs. Kakane.
Thank you. And
I thought I was assisting you further. I was not tripping you up. Yes, Mrs. Kakane.
It's only the truth. You've relied on ST5 as the process. And what we don't have is, or what it requires, that is the standard operating procedure which you had signed for as the custodian therefore. It talks about a need to conduct an assessment and that there must be a formal letter of request signed by the cost center owner, where the money will come from, and the likes and the requirement. In relation to these requests, did any of that happen?
I think in relation to Klapperkop, Brickfields requests, the email by Sohalela requesting security on this and also providing GL account from which the services would be paid from, I would say yes to request, and it was in line with the spirit of the SOP that I've attached this.
Fair enough. I mean, I think the process talks about a formal letter of request, but I'll accept what you explained. Just before we step off this process, I mean, I think we've accepted the fact that there might have been some gaps. Why, at this time, why did you use your Gmail account on page 43, just out of curiosity, when you were issuing instructions to Piri?
On which page are you?
43.
43.
Whilst the director is looking, may I address myself to Mr. Nkosi? In the meantime, can you please, if of course you'll be able to follow the proceedings, but can you in the meantime please apply your mind to what you may want to re-examine on? We insist on specific issues, and we want you to tell us beforehand what you want to re-examine on. So as you go along, please apply your mind to that. No, not now. No, we can deal with it down the line. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Vice. I don't know if you still remember where. Oh,
yes, Commissioner. The question is,
yes.
Why did I send this communication from my Gmail account? Simply because it was late in the afternoon. All right. I normally rely on my Gmail account, which is handy for anything that I need to do with my office.
Mr. Skakani, you were leaving the standard operating procedure.
Yes, I didn't. The witness answered me. He says the email was sufficient, according to him,
Thank you. There's just the last bullet point in the standard operating procedure. It's on page 34 of file of your new annexures.
Yes.
The last bullet point there says, upon funds being available, the second last, a purchase order will be created and sent to the cost owner for release. Once the purchase order has been released, the OCM and the asset protection unit will then go ahead and provide the services and monitor such services. In relation to these two sites that you authorized on the 7th of January, 2025, am I correct that you authorized the deployment before there was a purchase order created? Remember, on 7 January 2025, you said there will be deployment at 6 o'clock in these two sites. Did you do that before a purchase order was created?
It was done before the purchase order was created. And
but isn't that contrary to the standard operating procedure? Because the standard operating procedure says once the purchase order has been released, the OCM and then you, your department, APPU, will then go ahead and provide the services and monitor such services. So if you authorize the deployment before a purchase order was created, that is contrary to the standard operating procedure.
I want the commissioner to take note of the fact that in security we are dealing with emergency. It is not always the case that one would wait until administrative imperatives are carried out, but in this instance particularly, right, very much important was the fact that a GL account number has been submitted, and yes. Secondly, as a matter of practice, even though in the spirit of this instruction, right, understanding was payment would come from water and sanitation, right? But given what transpired, at the end of the day, payment came from Watchman Services as a result of funds that were requested, the evidence I've provided the Commission.
That's exactly the problem. Water and sanitation did not pay for this. That's why the budget had to be requested to that 90 million that you refer to, because this process was not followed. And you are saying to us, in emergencies, you can deviate from the standard operating procedure. That's really your point.
Okay. Let me explain further, Commissioner, to say, in the spirit of this email, all right, my understanding was everything would be done by water and sanitation, meaning even the purchase order creations and so forth and so on, you know. Hence, my focus was to make sure that what is vulnerable, all right, as long as there is a commitment by the department requesting, right, should be carried out in order to prevent further vandalisms and so forth and so on. The Commission will agree with me to say, given the nature of the sites, the pump station and so forth and so on, when you are dealing with security threats affecting pump station, right? You are dealing with some of the, what we call basic service delivery infrastructure, and sensitivity in most instances gets to be prioritized, you know, because if we do not do that and they vandalize further communities sitting without water, it becomes another issue. But
Director Malachi, I think you are filibustering because Commissioner Baloyi showed you that the request was first made in November. So November, December, January, that's 2 months until when you allocate the security services. So it's not as if this was done in one day and there was no opportunity to obtain a purchase order. This process could have been followed during that period from November until January.
Commissioner, let me, the GL account number, right, was not provided, if I'm not mistaken, right, was not provided immediately, right? It was on those bases that I had to make sure that even though I've got a duty to protect this sites, right, but on the other hand, complying to the SOP is important because at the end, I wouldn't bear responsibility to cover the cost for these services. Hence, any amount of delay that might have arose as a result of the requesting department taking its time would obviously have negative impact on what I was supposed to do, given the urgency of this matters. But
all right. I think I heard you, Director Malachi. Thank you, Mr.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Kakane. Now that Commissioner Kumalo has touched